Billiken fans, welcome back. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale. It's the Midtown Madness Podcast. Before we get going, thank you so much for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Also, make sure you comment down below anything you want to sound off on that we sound off on. Hit us with a comment down below. I know you guys probably have a lot to say, so don't hold back. It's season 4 of the Midtown Madness podcast, and once again, we're brought to you by Two Men and a Garden. Pete, I love Two Men and a Garden. It's local, it's fresh. They've got the heat when I want it. They've got the medium or the sweet, whatever you want. They got it, and you can pick it up right here in St. Louis in any grocery store, or if you're out of town or you're just really particular about what you want in a salsa, hit them up online at twomeninthegarden.com, which, like I said, if you're particular about your salsa, that's where you want to go. Follow them on social media at Two Men Salsa on Instagram and Twitter. Pete, we tried to be nice last week. We tried to stray from the negativity, and I just feel like the negativity is following us. It's not our fault. I'm taking a page from Travis Ford. It's not our fault. It's not my
we
fault.
we want to be positive, Zach. We
Yes.
want we want to be happy as sports fans. This is supposed to be fun, right?
Yes. By the way, I want to put something ahead that I just saw on the Twitter, and I just retweeted it, but I want to make sure I get it out there before we forget. There's a new podcast out there. It's called Soccer Mom Sunday from the at Soccer Dad Pod. Um, Dad Pod, nice. Uh, Head coach Katie Shields talked about her incredible journey from Harvard to SLU women's soccer, repeat NCAA and Atlantic 10 or NCAA, and then Atlantic 10 champs, building team culture, youth development advice, and more. And this is on wherever you get your podcast, I assume. But the link they gave was Podbean. But it's called the Soccer Dad Pod. It's at Soccer Dad Pod, and it's featuring Jennifer Cease. So go check that out. Go check out our queen, Katie Shields, on that podcast. Um,
Right.
Pete, let's get into this. They're killing me, dude.
I don't know who you're talking about, Zach. I mean, did we have a game this week, or I don't remember.
I don't.
You're gonna
I
have to walk me through it. I have a tendency to take
apparently
trauma.
Travis Ford and coaching staff forgot that we had a game and did not prepare. Um, uh,
Yeah, I deal with trauma by immediately forgetting whatever
yes,
happened. I put it out of
yes.
my head. So that's why I
You can
take notes during the game.
compartmentalize. I cannot.
No, I really don't. It's a gray cloud over my head. And I guess we'll start, Zach, with the 80-73 loss at Loyola on Wednesday, January 3rd, which somehow already feels like it was weeks ago. Like it's just like an
I don't know if I'm just
ongoing.
really busy or if like it really was that long ago. Because it's crazy how quickly it's been between games. Maybe it's because uh, this team feels like it just doesn't exist to me.
Yeah, it's a weird feeling. I keep kind of sitting back, scratching my head and being like, how did we get here? How is it like this? I just never thought it would be like this.
Yeah.
But this one, Zach, I mean, I don't really know where to begin. This game, SLU got off to an extremely poor start. Loyola, I had to reread these notes to remember this fact. They led by as much as 18 in the first half, 18 points.
Yeah.
SLU ended the half with a 10-0 run and was down 41-36, which honestly felt like a miracle given how the first 17 or more minutes of the half went. And then somehow we tied it at 55 in the second half. But once Loyola got that lead back, they never let go.
Pete,
And
do you
and this
think
one
I
slipped
started to
away.
believe? Do you think I started to believe that
When
we
we
were going to
tied
win
it,
that game? Yeah, did you think I started to believe? Because I did. And I'm really embarrassed about it.
and you were there, right? You were at the game.
Yeah. Like I don't yeah, I don't even have like the energy to shit talk against other teams' fans. Like this like the Mason trolls being out was the first time that I really gave a shit. Like I don't care. Like
They're
this
always out.
isn't. I know they are just they're the
The
worst
worst.
fan base. Um, Mostly because they don't really have anything to like brag about other than like a Final Four. Whatever. It's
Yeah.
and they've done nothing. They are probably the worst team to ever make a Final Four, pre that and post that. Like
Yeah,
it's wild.
it feels like more of a fluke than any other Final Four appearance, I
Right.
think.
Yeah, I mean, Butler felt like it mattered. Did VCU make one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
VCU, Wichita State. I mean, it all
Yeah.
signaled like these are programs that are competitive now.
Yeah. And that
Yeah.
have been for those were ones that where it was like it was building. You could feel it kind of
Hmm.
building.
Right.
George Mason just was like, oh, okay, whatever. Um,
But yeah,
anyway.
but back to Loyola. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Well,
I just
for one, I mean, yeah, to credit to Loyola, I don't know, they just don't have a trolley fan base. Like they're very nice.
they're Gryffindors, dude. They're just like they're honorable people.
I
They
like them.
maybe Hufflepuff would be better. Like, but Hufflepuffs kind of stink. Like, if you ever like, I don't know. Hufflepuffs are the kind of people that put it on their Twitter bio. I'm sorry, like you're that's weird. That's weird. Nobody cares. Um, but like, yeah, like I think Loyola fans are like just for now, they'll piss us off in 5 years. But for
Sure.
now, they're just happy to be here, and I like that about
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, for sure.
Respectful.
They seem to understand the difference between good fun, giving you razzing your buddy against
Yes.
like truly trolling you and trying to hurt you.
Yes.
Which is what George Mason fans want to do. But anyway, so we tied this, Zach. You didn't get your hopes up too much, which is good. Or
I know I
wait, you did. You
did.
did. That's right. You
I
did.
did.
So I guess I want to ask you then. You started to believe. Did you feel like in the room it was happening too? Coming back from an 18-point deficit, as we've seen so many teams do to SLU in recent years. Now SLU's on the other end of that. They tie it. Uh, what's the vibe like in the arena? Because we had a decent crowd for this game.
Yeah, and I want to point that out before we get too far into it. There was probably I think I guesstimated 75 to you guys.
Hmm.
I think I said between 7 and 8. And it was probably what 7,200.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think that's right. Let me verify that. But
but
yeah,
but anyway, so and by the way, those are all giveaway tickets.
just under
Um,
7,100.
yeah, and I don't want this to sound like I'm again just like trashing the AD. They literally gave away take 6 tickets to every season ticket holder. Like that uh, they and they only got 7,200 against a regional rival. Like they gave
Mhm.
away. So how many season ticket holders do we have? Like 5,000 maybe.
I don't know. It's less than last year. I know that much.
Let's say conservatively 5,000. Or no, let's say lower. Let's lower it. So 2,500. Say you have 2,500 season ticket holders.
Mhm.
You give 6 tickets, that's over 13,000 tickets on the market. So that's 1,550, and you still couldn't fill 10,600.
Right.
That's how bad it is. I think that's even more an illustration of where this fan base and where this program rates on St. Louis sports fan interest.
Right.
But like back to your question is I don't know. Like I don't think it was it was definitely not like it it didn't feel earnest or like collect like I have it felt lesser as a reaction from the fans than I had seen in previous years when we would storm back. And I think, again, I think people understand now that Loyola isn't Porter Moser's Loyola. But I thought first of all, the place was a morgue up until we had to come back. And when we came back, yeah, like fans were into it the rest of the game, but I mean, it didn't feel as earnest as it has been.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, there were a number of issues in this game. I want to start with the point guard play.
Yeah.
Meadows and Medley alike, veteran and freshman, they struggled to get it inside to Azawiro. Credit to Loyola, they clearly had him scouted. They were collapsing on him every time, doubling him in the post. So really, he was only scoring on offensive rebounds and broken plays for most of the game, like trying to junkyard dog it a little bit. Although he did manage to get loose a little bit down the stretch, but yeah, for most of the game, the point guards couldn't get him the ball, and then the ball just wasn't moving around well at all. And then Slew seemed, I would say, genuinely lacking in energy in both
Yeah.
the kind of like the first quarter and fourth quarter of this game. We saw a little bit of life in the second and third quarters. But man, oh man, Zach, I don't know what's going on, but they looked like they kind of just ran out of gas, and that was after a slow start.
Yeah, I want to get back to the point guard play and what I feel like the ball is just again getting stuck.
Yeah.
Again, it gets stuck in the point guard's hand. And Travis has pointed this out on the show, or not on our show, but like on the post game show, and it's like, dude, this has literally been happening. This happened when you had the best point guard in the nation, or the point guard with the most assists in the nation, and it's happening again. And to be fair, it happened multiple years. And I think maybe it's that he doesn't trust his offensive rebounding to throw up shot.
Mhm.
Like we're not moving the ball quickly. I don't know. But it just you watched Loyola get the ball and get out and get into their offense right away. They may not be coached well. Drew Valentine may not be a good coach, but again, he's up. They're 2-0 in conference. And but like Loyola was immediately getting down court. We are
Right.
walking the ball up. We aren't that shorthanded that we need to walk the ball. If you want to press, you can press. Like, especially in this game. I mean, what, we're missing Parker? We just
Right.
had two
And
weeks off.
Meadows.
We just had 2 weeks off. How are we not pressing?
Or I guess not Meadows yet, but yeah, no, I know.
You should be rested.
Not just walking the ball up, but then going into that weave, right? So by the time we start running any play, we're halfway through the shot clock. It's in kind of the 15 to 18-second left range. And so you're like,
What's the
but then we run out of ideas, right? It's almost like we
yeah?
run out of the weave and then hope they've made a mistake. Like,
That's
where is there a hole?
exactly what they're
We're like
literally
we're
the
we're
weave
waiting
is
for
the
a defensive
offense.
lapse.
The
Yes,
weave
right,
is the offense.
right. So we come out of the weave and then you're looking for holes,
Or
and if
you're
there
looking
aren't
for a
any,
mismatch.
yeah, that's right. And then they just don't have any ideas otherwise. And we don't have guys who are natural playmakers. You and I both kind of speculated how the offense would run after Yuri Collins was gone, because I think a lot of people, as much as Yuri could do, and obviously being one of the best passers in college basketball, it gave him a certain reputation. But for those of us who watched every game, it was kind of like the ball spends a lot of time in his hands, and the offense tends to get bogged down. And that really was a problem last year. And so there were people going as far as to say, I think the offense would be better without him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you and I went that far, but we were really curious as to seeing like what would it look like,
Yeah.
and would we move it earlier in the shot clock? And instead, we're just, we're getting to the same point of the offensive possession. And instead of the ball being in Yuri Collins' hands, it's in Meadows or Medley's. And they're just not Collins. So, or at least not yet in Medley's case. I don't know what the future holds for him. Willing to at least entertain the idea that he improves into a better college point guard. But that's what's frustrating to see, is it just seems like instead of necessity being the mother of invention and us working a different offense, it's more like we just kind of wind up where we were before, but without as capable a point.
I I could not say it better. I just it's so like I never thought about it that way. That all we're doing is running that weave and then hoping that either the defense has lost one of our men or we've got a favorable mismatch. But it's like those guys aren't switching. Like I don't.
Right.
We could get into switching with Sloop, but like it's just the you talk about the energy too. It's I don't know. Travis said they're out of shape. There's whether they're out of shape or not, both, uh, you know, excuses are invalid. I mean, they don't even pass like an initial test of critical thinking.
Mhm.
You look at okay, so 2 weeks off, right? They're out of shape. Did you bring in guys that okay, first of all, did you set them up with a program to take home, a running program to go back? I mean, I know it's a Christmas vacation, but I mean, we're trying to win games here. We're trying to, we're serious about this, right? I mean, it's your life's dream to play college basketball and try to win a conference championship, an NCAA championship. So, like, what are you doing in those 2 weeks you're off? Like, I know there were 2 weeks off from games. I know there were practices, but like, and I'm sure there was what, maybe a 3 to 5 day home time, right?
Right.
Uh, you're not working during that. Like, I get taking Christmas Eve and Christmas Day off, right? If there's 5 days, I would certainly be working out those 3 days, right?
Sure.
If it's 3 days, I would certainly be working out that one day. I just don't understand the mindset of how you get out of shape over a 2 week break in which you did practice and you maybe took 5 days off.
Right.
Look, I've said this before. I do triathlons. I, it's not a brag. It's what I do. I understand fitness in that way, in that cardiovascular fitness. I could get the flu right now, 2 weeks out from an Ironman or a half Ironman, and be out of training for that 5 days, 5 days like that first week, and still come back and race that half Ironman and do pretty damn well. I just don't understand what this.
Well, but also Zach, like if that's the reason, if he's saying they're out of shape, it's like, well, whose job is it to get them in shape?
No
Maybe
kid.
not yours directly, but they have resources.
Yeah.
You say you can get back in shape for an Ironman if you get the flu between now and then.
Well, you don't
You
even
don't,
lose. You don't even lose fitness. Like there's no fitness lost.
yeah,
I'm not saying I can get back to shape. I'm saying you don't lose fitness over a week of not
sure.
doing anything
Yeah, so you
unless you're
don't
eating
have
everything.
a strength and conditioning coach. You don't have a nutrition program. You don't have like all of the resources that high level Division 1 athletes have today. It's just like it's you doing it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so it's both a
And I'm also 34.
that's right. Yeah, you're not, 18 to 23 or whatever these guys are. Look, man, I mean, it's just it doesn't look, it's not a good look for not just Ford, but the players and the whole program if you're talking about not being in shape in January.
Yeah.
That to me, it's
I still
troubling,
can't believe he's throwing out that Ezowiro's not in shape.
right?
Or that
What's he
wasn't
been doing?
he wasn't ready to play. Are you what are you doing?
But also at the same time, it's like we just read the article about how we lost 30 to 35 pounds this year. Like we know, or
No
in the past
shit.
year, like we know he's not just been like sitting on the couch in his apartment,
Yeah.
playing video games. Like the dude's been working. We know that. I understand there's like a learning game speed sort of thing, but he had a really good first two games in terms of his production and everything. So like I don't know. I understand that there's no way to fully simulate that.
Yeah. And we're
That's
gonna get we've
you
got
know
the sports on a Sunday morning quotes pulled thanks to West Pine Bills, and we're gonna get
yeah.
way more into it, I think, down the road. So let's go ahead and let Pete
Yeah, well,
finish up on this
let's
game.
get to the box score on this one,
Yep.
Zach, because I thought it was really weird. SLU was 8 of 19 from the free throw line, which is about 42%. They out rebounded Loyola by 14, 44 to 30, including 19 offensive boards, which meant SLU had 11 more field goal attempts despite having seven more turnovers. But both teams wound up making the same number of shots, of course. And then second chance points were just 13 to 8, which is not a margin you want to see if you out rebounded a team by that much. Really frustrating. Anyway, those all stood out to me as like problems. Jimerson led SLU with 19, but it took him 20 field goal attempts to do it. He went 3 of 11 from three. Somebody pointed out, I think it was in this game, not just the Mason one. It looks, Zach, like we continue to struggle to get him clean looks, open looks from three in the half court offense. It seems like whenever he's open, it's happening in transition, and therefore he's kind of like I don't want to say rushing it, but maybe like he's a little more trigger happy in transition than he otherwise would be because I think he's getting so frustrated in the half court, and
Mhm.
that's kind of hard to watch.
Yeah, it is. And I like Jimerson in transition, but I like
Hmm.
Jimerson more, not so much catching it at that, like catching the pass from behind him, so to speak. So he's ahead of the play. Like I want him to be with the play.
Right,
I don't know if it's as conducive to getting a shot up. Obviously, Jimerson is an absolute wizard in with quick release, like Jason Capono quick. Um, and but I just think it's more conducive to putting up a good shot if he's getting the ball from somebody who is either parallel to him or in front of him, right? If it's kicked
right.
back out to you, I guess. Um, yeah, I don't mind him shooting in transition at all. I mean, I just don't understand how you've had a guy for how many years now? 10? Jimerson, how long has he been in school?
Yeah, no
No,
kidding.
but to be fair, like how long has Jimerson actually been here? 4 years?
Well, yeah, I mean it's his fifth year.
Yeah,
I
so
guess you could say his first year was kind of cut off short, but
sure.
still.
But like you spent that entire season working on like you knew Jimerson played a lot his freshman year.
His first full freshman year or the one where he
No,
only
the one he got injured in.
yeah, right. Yeah, where he only played the first
He
nine
came
games.
in, he played a lot that year. For a freshman and as you know, I mean, you spent the summer trying to figure out how to like did have you not like figure you did I would say you started then trying to figure out what's the best way to utilize Jimerson's three-point shooting. Have we not figured out a way in that 4 years to get him open?
Hmm.
Like I just and if it's the players not executing or not being able to execute, then why'd you bring them in? Why'd you
Right.
bring in guys who can't set screens, who can't, you know, work help off the ball on offense? I just nothing, none of these excuses passes 5 seconds of thought.
Right. Right. Like a little bit of scrutiny, it just doesn't stand up at all.
Caves.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I don't know what it is. You know, we're not the ones being paid to figure it out though. Hargrove, on the other hand, had 18. It only took him nine field goal attempts. But he didn't really seem to get going until later in this game. I just
Which
didn't,
is the most frustrating thing.
yeah,
Like
I know.
he makes like I think I was sitting with one of the a former baseball player towards the end of the game, and he went down and postered that guy, and I looked at him. I go, he's gonna do it again, isn't he? It's just like again, we see these flashes, just like we're gonna talk about Hughes in the Mason game, and it's just does anybody just want to step up earlier?
Yeah, no kidding.
And I mean, is it that we're playing, or is it because they've taken out like against Mason? Obviously, you could say it was starters versus scrubs. I think a little bit there, but again, this one, I mean, it was kind of close. It
Yeah.
was. I just don't understand why there are not guys that are stepping up and doing things like Hargrove did there at the end way earlier.
The late game heroics were fun the one time, but like we need a sustained effort to win games consistently. And yeah, that, that's what we got to see. Azuero in this one, he finished with 13 and 10. I think it was his first double double, which was nice to see. Thames had 8 and 6 in 21 minutes, pretty efficient. Hughes had 9 and 6 in 26 minutes, including a couple key three-pointers down the stretch. But he also had four fouls, a couple turnovers, and he got burned on defense a lot. there's a couple baseline drives that he may as well have been just like a cone. He's got a lot to learn on the defensive end. That's for sure. But at least we saw him looking healthy and making a little progress in these games. Circling back to the point guard, Zach. We said they weren't good on the box score. Medley and Meadows combined for 4 points, 6 assists, and 5 turnovers. Just not what you want to see for a combined effort from your point guards. But Tim Dalger in this game, Zach, complete ghost. No
I
points in
was
11
there.
minutes. And I was he hurt or what was going on here? 11
I
minutes and just nothing.
I mean, I guess he, according to Ford on the post game show, Dogger was dealing with an undisclosed injury
Yeah.
that limited his minutes. I don't. Again, where are we getting players injured at?
And like, what are the nature of injuries that he's still playing and but not that much? And when he's in, he stinks. Like, what is that injury?
Holy
I'm genuinely, I'm
no! Peter
curious.
just made his heel turn for the season.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
Oh my god! And he stinks. That's part of
in
that's a
he did
symptom
in those
of the
11,
injury.
like
Yeah,
if he's injured, if he's
yeah.
gonna be that bad, like
And
you
he
can't
did.
tell
He
me
did
you can't tell
stink.
me the walk-ons wouldn't have been better in that spot.
You
So
can't
like,
tell
yeah,
me George Churchich would have been better. Like
right. I would take one of those guys at 100% instead of him dealing with whatever illness or injury it was that made him so bad for
I've
those 11 months.
I've decided that I think Travis Ford's teams can only have one of each type of guy.
One of each,
Like nobody can be a dogger, like guard who rebounds. We can't have another one of those. We can't have
right?
another Gibson Jimerson out there. George can't get out there because we can't have two of them.
It's like
Uh,
Ocean's 11, man. Everybody brings one skill to the table.
but except in Ocean's 11, they actually accomplished the goal.
Yeah, I think security would catch this team immediately.
I mean, who's getting in the cart? Who's gonna tuck in there? I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
no, it's
Meadows,
just not there.
Medley.
It's just not happening.
Um, yeah, like I think we talked about Loyola playing at a different speed. Oh well, no, we'll get to that, but I think we talked a little bit about that with the way they pushed the ball immediately every time they got it, at least into the front court. And again, back to that. How do we keep how much time is wasted there? Like talk about playing at a different speed.
Yeah,
Never mind. Just go.
and
Just get us through this game.
no, and they were all too happy to take advantage of that, right?
Yeah.
Like at the so Watson, who's the Davidson transfer, he was a problem all night. 24 points. He goes 5 of 7 from three because Slew goes under on every ball screen, and they did it again at Mason. Braden Norris, who's been there as long as Jimerson's been at Slew, had 10, 6, and 7, and he made a really big three with about 2:14 left, if memory serves. And when he hit that, that was the one where I
Dagger.
was kind of like that. Yeah, that's the game because I think that put them up like 8 or something like that. That was it. So I want to get into Ford's post game comments, and I kind of summarized them basically like this. He said the start was sluggish, soft, and non-aggressive, which it's true. I agree with. Trying to get Brad back in game shape, but there's no level of game intensity that you can actually duplicate.
I just so disagree with that.
I mean, I will say, like, it is different to play in a live, meaningful game versus like going at that speed in practice or whatever. I get it, but we already touched on this point. We touched on this point earlier in the show, and I know you disagree.
There's just fitness that yes, there is an intensity of hitting, of contact. There is all of that stuff. But to say that you do not have like that during practice, like why is he not on a conditioning plan the entire season? The like
Yeah, these are good questions.
aerobic conditioning that like the base level of fitness that comes with it, the wind sprints, the I don't what are they called? Like what is it, 40 seconds you have to make it in? Whatever
Yeah,
that is. I mean, that stuff you can do all the time. Like Now, do I get that there's contact involved and that makes it different? Sure, but
Sure, right.
I just don't. Getting back on defense is pure fitness. It's not. It has nothing to do with contact.
Yeah, he added that Loyola played at a different speed than we did. It goes against everything we believe and coach to,
What does
which
that
seemed,
mean?
I took that to say like we didn't play at the speed that we teach them to play at, which I don't really understand.
They've never played it fast ever.
No, that's what I thought too. But maybe when he says speed there, maybe he means effort. Like the kind of winning 50-50 ball kind of thing.
But
Um,
that's what I kind of noticed in this one though, is that I think I texted you this. It's like when SLU makes an effort play, they everybody gets out of sync.
yeah,
When a team that has more cohesion to it makes an effort play, everybody reacts and adjusts accordingly and things work out. When it's the Billikens making a hustle play on defense, we completely lose the plot and it
yeah,
ends up in a wide open three or a loose ball and a turnover and a dunk or something like that. Like
right.
it's
So how about this one then? He said a lot of our mistakes were due to players being in new positions, which I took to mean
what are
Brad
you
Brad's back. So people, like Hargrove slides over a position, like everybody kind of slides over a position. And I'm like, what is this, November? Like 2 months ago, that's something where hey, we start the season, we've got guys hurt, we're adjusting. We are in the thick of the mid-season now. We're in our conference schedule. It is mid-season. Um, Saying they're adjusting to new positions,
dude,
I don't buy it.
I'm not even renting it. Uh,
So then he
I'm not even borrowing it. Not even testing it.
no,
Like
no,
it. The thing is uh, what new positions? What like it's four in, one out.
right.
It's
It's really just TJ.
yes,
I mean,
and TJ has not played this position his entire life.
yeah,
He
and it could
played three
affect like
seasons.
defensive assignments and everything, but it's not like we've played all these teams already and we're playing them a second time with different
Yeah.
defensive assignments or something like that. It's like, no, we're still seeing teams for the first time this season. He added that some of our guys have to understand how to have a winning DNA. Some of them have habits that hold them back.
Pete, I just want to for ASMR. Um, DNA isn't learned.
I know that's a good coaching thing though. They always talk about DNA. Like that's the
No.
one thing you can't change in these guys. Whatever. If he wants
It's
to,
but why if like are we scouting are like do we ask questions? Can
yeah,
we give them the Wonderlic test or whatever the
right.
personality test is? Like there's a like
This is part of recruiting.
yes, you have to assess that a guy is the right fit for your coaching style, for your
Yeah,
program. This is
watch
why,
him talk to his
again,
coaches.
I mean, I don't want to like throw a player who's no longer on this team under the bus, but the rumor was is that they got rid of, or they got not got rid of, but they mutually parted ways with Nick. Um, Help me
Kramer.
out. Yeah, Nick Kramer. They did. I think he. I mean, there were rumors that he was late to practice, stuff like that. Um, I, I just don't know how you have that happen and then go ahead and bring in guys or like if we're talking about the transfer portal guys, right? Because that's I I mean I guess you could throw your guys you recruited out of high school under the bus,
Maybe he's
but
also talking about the international players and like,
but
those are guys
why?
who are
What
make who are
about
make
them? What about them?
they're making a much bigger adjustment than everybody else,
Who
like a
no
domestic player
who
would be.
well, for he doesn't play Bruce enough. He doesn't
Yeah,
play George enough. He doesn't play Steph enough. Like they're not consequential to the result.
more so.
Bruce more so, but the international players aren't. I don't know who he's talking about, and I don't know why you brought. If you believe that about a player, they aren't going to get that winning DNA. They don't have that dog in them. They're not going to learn how to have that dog in them. You can't
Right.
teach that. There's there there are there are programs like like there's a point where we talk about how like women's soccer recruits holistic people. Like they they play sports. They are winners. They are fiercely competitive. They are killer instinct players. Gaby is a stone cold killer. Hannah Larson is a stone cold killer. All these players like Percelli's a stone cold killer. Like you're bringing in players that want to win, that will do anything it takes to win. Rick Majerus brought in players would do whatever it took to win. They didn't give a shit about whether you had an Xbox in the locker room. Like they didn't give a
Right.
shit about whether they the couches in the lounge were leather or pleather. They were there to learn how to win and play smash mouth defense and and precision offense. And if that's not the kind of guy you're bringing in, that's on you. And they're just doing. They are who they are. That's fine. I'm not gonna fault anyone for not having a killer instinct. I don't have it, but I'm not
Right.
playing Division 1 basketball. You have to bring in guys that if that's your identity, if that's what you want your team's identity, you have to bring in guys who match that identity. Travis Ford has has seemed to always recruit basketball or scorers and offensive juggernauts and, and try to teach him to defend. I don't know if he knows how to teach players to defend at this point. Like, because the only great defenders on this team came in that way. It
Right.
was Javon Bess, Jordan Goodwin, and I mean Hassan Fresh. I'm talking about the guard position, really, is what I'm talking about. Because I don't know if any of these guys really are that great at defense. I like Larry Hughes. I just think he's frenetic and he's got great hands, but I don't know if he has the positional defense. Meadows not great positionally. He often flashes out on a player and gets driven by. On the big side, we see a lot of players, you know, jumping at pump fakes. Like we bite on everything, and I just don't think this team is good positionally. I don't
No,
know.
they're not.
I just went on the longest rant I think I've ever gone on.
Well,
I
and
hope I
and
made some sense.
the sticking with the defense, Zach, and yes, you did, but sticking with the defense, he said Loyola took away SLU's pick and roll game with their physicality, or sorry, sticking with X's and O's, really. Um, the way I wanted to transition that is it's not just uh habits, it's not just X's and O's, but like we're getting just freaking out physical by other team. We're getting out pushed, out shoved, out, I guess I don't know, out muscled is I
Yeah.
guess the term I'm looking for.
I mean,
Like
this
that
team's
that to
definitely
me,
not tough.
no, you don't see a lot of toughness, but like really Loyola, they've got some dudes, don't get me wrong. Like Alston is one of the more physically imposing
He
players in the
looked
whole
he looked
league.
slimmer. He
He
looked
did,
much
he
more
did actually.
imposing last year.
He
Like
did. Yeah,
much
he was
more cut.
broader.
He was much more cut. I think this year he might have, maybe looked to add a little bit of a different feel to his game. Maybe not so much because I think he was very much a Reggie Egbeko mixed with like a Hassan French. Like if Reggie Egbeko had Hassan French's body, just very trim, lean cut, but just very kind of out of control.
Yeah,
Maybe not. Maybe trying to add a little more. Shit. Trying to add a little more to, than the physical side, a little more finesse to his game. Sorry, I just knocked over my Billiken, which is a metaphor for the entire season.
I'm glad that didn't break. It's
It,
a
it
Billiken Neon.
Yeah, it doesn't break apparently because it's
Good.
fallen 15 times apparently
Well, be
since
careful.
we. Yeah, no, I got it.
But yeah, I just like in addition to our, our poor our lack of offensive scheming and our poor defense. It's just like to get out muscled by teams. It's just like, come on. He said they had this means nothing, but that SLU has to be more better than bad at this point in the season, which
I
is,
don't know what that means.
I mean, it's just kind of like, duh, you have to always be more better than bad. Like you have to be good. Like that's okay, fine. Like he's just searching for things to
We got to
say
do more,
the way
do
I am.
good, better, more.
Right.
I don't know.
So then here come the injuries. Dalger is dealing with an undisclosed injury that limited his minutes. Another unnamed player needed fluids before the game, and then Thames was back from injury and he wasn't 100% yet. We've already talked about the injuries. I don't know what to say. I mean, like if those are all facts, that's fine. This was still a winnable game.
Yeah.
We
I
didn't do the things we needed to do to win.
Here's more facts. Uh, Memphis just lost one of their best players to an injury. And as
Yeah,
much as we hate on Penny Hardaway, you know what he's not going to do if they lose the next game? Blame it on injuries.
right, right.
Dayton,
Dayton is rolling
Dayton
through. Yeah,
rolling through fringe top 25 without
without
Malachi Smith.
they just lost Kobe Elvis in this today's game too. By the way, he
For
went down in
what?
like it was like the first
No,
minute
I
of the
mean
game.
bad.
He made some contact on a layup and went down awkwardly. So they don't have any word on his status yet. But that losing two starting guards could be a bigger deal. But the point you made is they've gone
And
the whole season without Mal
I
Smith,
forgot.
and they've outperformed expectations.
I forget that he's injured. Why?
Yeah,
Because they're still winning.
they're winning.
And
Yeah,
nobody's talking about it
right.
because they're winning.
Yeah, so Ford does, he did say like that's on me a few times. He did
He
say that
did.
they needed to make some changes and they can't make excuses, but
I
then
thought he was turning over a new leaf.
a lot of these things sound more like excuses than explanations. Like it's fine to acknowledge like the injuries, for example, it's fine to acknowledge that, but it's like it's different stuff every game and it's the same result and the same mistakes and the same problems. And it's different personnel, it's different severity. I just we got to move on from that. Like this, the bottom line for me here, Zach, is this is a bad result. We said it last week. We needed to win this game because the schedule gets really hard. This is our easiest matchup on paper until February. And that big comeback is not enough to consider this any kind of moral victory. Yes, you like that we didn't roll over when we were down 18. We managed to tie it up, managed to make it a winnable game, but the result matters. And we did not get the result that we needed in this game. And that's just, when you look ahead at the schedule, it's a real problem.
Yeah. I think we talked about 0-8 if they didn't win this game.
Very possible.
I mean,
We'll certainly be on paper predicted to lose all of those. Like any win from here on out in the next 8 games would be, or I guess 7 games would be an upset.
yeah.
Yeah, not good.
I just don't I don't have like
So
it's not
then,
even my team. Like I've almost divorced myself emotionally from the results because it just like just serves like I feel like it just serves to ruin my day. And but I know it's gonna happen, so I just prepare. Like I will say it's a little less day ruining this season because I just kind of already checked out. Like the off season was so bad that you kind of knew this was coming. There was, the upside was okay, but the downside you knew could be real bad. And I just said, you know what, this year I'm not going to. I'm not. Last year I expected them to be good, and I
mhm.
had expectations, and I had hopes and dreams, and they dashed them. So I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not letting them in this time. They're not. No, I'm done.
Well, then let's cover this Mason game before we get to some more.
This one's going to be a lot of you, so it's gonna the listeners out there are going to be very happy because they're not going to listen much to me in this one
Well,
until we get to the quotes at the end.
You were working in this game during
Yes.
this game. Yeah, okay.
I
So
listened to most of Rammer and Earl, and I got to tell you, like, I'm sorry if Rammer or Earl is listening, but at this point, you gotta just stop complaining about the officials. Like, it's not making fans any happier.
yeah, and I'll get into that a little bit because I think there was kind of a split, and even Travis seemed to acknowledge that they were fouling more. Like they were
Yeah,
fouling.
yeah. It was really bad. Like, it
So,
came off very whiny, like more whiny than me on this podcast.
yeah, I don't think you come off whiny. I don't think that's the right word.
All right. I'll take your
uh,
word for it.
79-67 was the final score at George Mason. Obviously a loss. Saturday the 6th. Mike Meadows sat out this game in addition to Sincere Parker. Apparently he got a concussion late in that Loyola game, um, which is, yeah, hopefully not a long-term problem. For this season. SLU kept it close for most of a pretty ugly first half. Mason went on a late kind of mini run to go up into halftime 39-30. And then SLU got to within 6 early in the second half before another run put Mason up 15. And they've really, it was never close after that. The score is completely deceptive here, losing by 12. SLU hit a few late shots, a few threes all of a sudden. I think we hit 4 of our last 5 threes to make it look closer than it was. Mason led by 23 with 5.5 minutes to play. It was 73-50. And what happens here is Ford leaves his top rotation players in when the other team goes to their bench and in a blowout. So this isn't the first time this season we've seen a score compressed late to put some lipstick on the pig, so to speak. But Zach, this game really reminded me a lot of that Utah State game. SLU allowed a first year coach with a roster full of transfers to completely dictate style, completely dictate tempo. They looked decisive and disciplined, and SLU looked undisciplined, indecisive, and just completely lost out there. Utah State, by the way, continues to play well. George Mason's 13-2. I don't know how these other schools are figuring it out like this. And here we are in year 8 of a coaching administration, and it's just not there. The 3-point defense, we mentioned this in the last game, still a problem. They kept going under on screens for Polite, who was happy to bury open looks from outside. It wasn't just him, but I think he hit 3, I think more than anybody else on their team. Could have been worse.
Are
But
we
they were
going
also
under because we're just switching every of them and there's no other way to switch?
no, I don't necessarily think that's it. I mean, well, here let's break this down. We're going to steal this from Eric Pitlick,
Yeah.
known as the real Arch Baron Cup historian on Twitter. And here's how he outlines how you end up with a defense this bad. He says you got to be way too content to switch on ball screens. There are non-existent, or well, basically he's saying they are way too content.
Yes.
Not there. The help side rotations are non-existent. They get stuck ball watching. They don't communicate. They've got a turnover prone offense and then a lack of ability to produce turnovers, which is kind of caused by a few of the things above. And then they use contact as a way to make up for other mistakes, which resulted them in having so many more fouls in this game. Look, it's all of that. Sometimes you go under in to avoid a switch, right? Like they don't want to get caught with a mismatch, but they're just giving guys way too much space to shoot. I don't know how they have not figured that out yet at this point in the season, but they got buried by it again. The offense also poor. I don't want to like overlook that. We just don't have guys who create for each other. We talked about in the last game. We walk the ball out, run that weave, and seem content to drain shot clock, hoping that they're going to make a mistake, and it just doesn't happen enough. And we wind up indecisive.
Yeah.
You see guys winding up with the ball, and like how many times have you seen a player high in the paint signaling like come here, let me give you a dribble, let me give you a handoff, set me a screen, something like that. Like you're watching guys walk through practice
Yeah,
on a new
I said this
offense.
exact same thing.
It happens so much in games where
It's
like
crazy.
it's like watching actors on stage where somebody's forgotten a line and like the other
Yes.
person's trying to feed them their line. That's what it is like to watch our offense.
Or how many times we get the ball way high or like in a corner and there's so much space between the guy with the ball and the entire other team, the rest of our team, and
Yes,
nobody over here's moving. Like the
right.
rest of the guys aren't moving off the ball anymore, and this guy has picked up his dribble. And oh shoot, what do I
I
do
know.
now?
Right. So then you get the panicked wave. Like,
Yes,
come somebody bail me out of this. It happens so much, dude. So much. Meanwhile, on the other side, Keyshawn Hall for George Mason is an excellent player. He had 22 and 8 in this game. And you gotta wonder how George Mason winds up with a guy like this from the portal. Um, they're not sitting there on like a massive NIL war chest, as far as I know. And they wind up with a guy who looks like this, and we don't. I don't quite understand what's happening there. If is it
I
talent
I can
identification or what?
I can tell you exactly why. It's program juice, baby.
Well,
Just
they've got the new coach, and
yeah,
they had minutes to give.
they have a vision to the vision is still intangible, right?
Yeah.
The vision, there's possibility. You look at Travis Ford's program over here, or shit. Who can we throw under the bus in the A10? I don't think there's anybody left in the A10, right? That's not new. That's been around like Ford has.
Well, I mean, Anthony Grant is doing well this year, and arguably Billy Lang is too in his fifth year at St. Joe's.
Right. So I mean, a Billy Lang, right, would be kind of there's no vision. He can't sell a vision because he's never like there's tangible results that say he can.
Right.
With Travis Ford, there are tangible results that say he can't,
Mhm.
that he doesn't know how to win. With Tony Skin, there's no history. There's no way to say what he's selling doesn't exist.
Well, he certainly looks like somebody who's got a vision. I can give you that much. I mean, 13 and
Uh,
2, and all of these transfers are playing like they've played together for years. You know, this top four of Hall, Polite, Darius Maddox, and Amari Kelly, that's a solid core that can definitely compete in the A10. Hall could be an all-conference player, quite frankly. So, look, I don't think they have a ton of depth. Um, I'd be curious to what they look like if a couple of these guys got in foul trouble, because I didn't see a whole lot outside this top four, but still, I think they're better than expected, and they're just an impressive, well coached team. I will say, Gibson Jimerson passed Tommy Liddell for eighth on the all time scoring list. He did finish with 20, and he did it a lot more efficiently than he did against Loyola. 6 of 12 from the field, 2 of 6 from three, 6 of 7 from the line. And then Ezewiro had his fourth straight good game on paper with 16 and 8. He did get into foul trouble and sat more than he otherwise would have. Got his third foul early in the second half. It's kind of interesting, Zach, because that's when they went on that big, it was like a 9-0 run to go up
mhm,
15. And it's easy to point to like Ezewiro as the reason, but like Bruce came in and he was fine. He got scored on a couple times, but his defense was good. He didn't get baited into, bad fouls. Um, I also got to say, like, he's the rare slew post player who knows how to pass out of the post,
mhm.
right? Like, think about Okoro in the past 2 years.
He just doesn't draw any.
When he got the
He doesn't
ball,
draw a double
he
team.
wasn't passing. No, that's yeah, right. But yeah, they collapse on Bruce, and Bruce knows how to pass out of that. So I gotta say, I do like seeing that out of him. Um, Back to those fouls, 26-13 overall with Slew on the wrong end of that stat. So West Pine Bills said that it was well deserved. But of course, Rammer, Earl, and most of the message board people thought we were getting jobbed. All I know is that it wasn't the deciding factor in this game. Even if Mason shot 23 more free throws than Slew did and made enough of those to make up for that margin on paper, the margin compressed because we hit a few late threes. It wasn't the refs, it was the way we were playing defense.
Yeah.
Um, that's the problem here. Hughes did look a little better. He had 12 on 4 of 7 shooting from three, missed his only attempt inside the arc.
I'm pretty sure
That
he made all of his threes in the last 5 minutes.
he still at least showed like he looked a little bit healthier, a little bit better. He's got a long way to go, but He's the guy responsible for making this one look respectable, I suppose. Slew
Again, I hated listening to Rammer get excited over Larry Hughes's threes.
Yeah. Yeah. Late in the game. Like there wasn't a whole lot of meaning to those, but
It was
you know,
none, no meaning.
no. Slew had 16 turnovers. Mason had just five. Ford pointed out in his post-game remarks that we can't turn it over that much and we need to force turnovers. But it's like, duh. And like I never hear a reason how. Like how are you going to make that happen? Obviously, we can't turn it over that much. Obviously, we need to force turnovers. We didn't first force turnovers at all last season. Like we were terrible at it. A lot of teams had single digit turnovers against us. When you look at the last four games, and Stu Durando pointed this out, broke it out, each game, but collectively, SLU has turned it over 60 times in the past four games, which is high, but not like devastating. It's not good,
It's what,
but
15 per
15 a
game?
game, it's too much. It's not
Yeah,
good. But they forced just 20.
five a game.
20. Yeah. It's horrible. I don't know how that's possible. So his post game remarks also included a line that SLU will go on a big run later this season. Quote, once we get healthy and once we get on the same page. But like I wrote here, clearly using exclamation points because I was upset. It's January, right? It's January. When do you plan to get on the same page? And how? I
Wait,
just
wait
like,
till wait till you. Travis Ford will have a rebuttal for you on Sports on a Sunday morning. Believe you me.
yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Look,
Um,
but here's the best pull quote from the post game. Are these excuses? Yes, they are, but it's reality. He didn't deliver it that way, but that's an exact quote from this post game presser. SLU is below 500, Zach, for the first time since the 2017-2018 season, which was his second year.
yeah.
So so there you have it.
No, yeah, I guess it was. I don't know. He's been here
That's
too
that
long.
that's the bottom line of the George Mason the George Mason experience. They really they blew us out. Doesn't look like
Yes.
it, but they blew us out.
Um, oh God. You ready for this?
Let's do it.
Hmm. All right, Pete. I've got my thoughts. So what I'm gonna do is read the quote, let you talk,
Okay.
because if you read it and I talk, you'll never get a word in edgewise. Okay, so the first quote pulled, this is again West Pine Bills quoting. So if we misquoted, it's on them. Uh Directly pulled from the tweet. It's a combination. We fouled too much, but some I thought were questionable. We never could gain any rhythm defensively. We really struggled defensively. He talks about rhythm a lot.
Yeah, I mean you get in rhythm when you're doing what you're supposed to do, when you're executing. I don't that's how you get in rhythm, right? I mean, like it's like that in music where you're literally trying to get in rhythm. You practice, and the more you practice, the more you hit those notes exactly right with one another. You know where each other are supposed to be and when. You know what you can add to this defense. You know where you can improvise and where you have to do exactly how the thing is written on paper. It's the same. It's the same. So that's it's another one of those quotes like, yes, I agree, but how? How are you going to fix that?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like what it's these are the same things over and over again.
Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah.
think, and it's just like you're saying, like he's run like I don't like him anymore. And I say that, and I know that's gonna start like to preclude me from being impartial here, and I don't think I am anyway, and I don't think I've ever pretended to be. I'm a Billiken fan. I'm a fan of nothing else but the Billikens. Like I'm not a Travis Ford fan. I'm not a Darren Hendrickson fan, and that goes for all the people except for Andrea Beatty, who's again been my friend since we were in college. So, Like the only person that I can truly call a friend is that one. Like I'm not a fan of I like Katie Shields. I'm not a fan of Katie Shields. My allegiance is to the team first. And it's just like I don't care what he I don't like it. Like he's unlikable at this point.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just like I'm just kind of getting tired of the same old thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
It comes like it's so defiant and so just like stubborn in
yeah, yeah.
um Travis continued that he thought SLU was playing good, tough, aggressive defense. The other team was bailed out a bit on some fouls near the basket. A lot where at the end of a shot clock would get a rebound and be headed the other way and a whistle would blow.
Yeah, I mean, late whistles, whatever. I mean, I look,
When
did we
the
outfoul them 26 to 13? Maybe not. Maybe it was 23 to 15 or something like
maybe
that.
it
But
was
it
20 to
clearly
16,
it was
20 to
clearly
13.
more than George Mason. I mean, there was clearly, and it got worse over the course of the game too. Like it was 11 to 4 early on, and it kept, it was a big margin the whole game, but it's just like the tone was set. And like um Pitlick outlined above is that they use the fouling, they use the contact as a way to make up for other mistakes.
Yeah.
Like that's the last resort. You try and
That's the
keep them
nature of fouling.
right.
Is that
Exactly.
it is an offensive player getting you out of position, an offensive player or offensive team movement getting you out of position, causing you to rush or causing you to reach back and correct a mistake and foul. A
Right.
foul is a reaction. It's a correction of a mistake. It's not. It's not its own thing. Like it's got its own name and it's got its own stat and it is a thing, but it's not. It's a symptom of something else. It's like watching the NFL. Like there's not a sport in the world like the NFL where fouling actually it actively gives your team an easier chance to score.
Right.
Uh, like
Yeah, I mean, it can also be a lack of effort. It can also be poor conditioning, but at the end of
yeah.
the day, it's because you're just not executing on defense, and
Oh,
it hurts more when the whistle's late, but it doesn't mean it was wrong.
like we talk about executing on like what's the plan? It's are we not executing it? Is it not scouted correctly? I mean, how do we continue to go on with are we trying to get players to go under screens? Is that the directive? He's not. I has Travis once brought up going under screens? I don't
Not
remember.
that I can remember. I don't
I
know.
I just don't. Is that something that's even on the radar that they think is an issue? Uh, Son of a bitch. It just fell again. All right, hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it, guys. I know it looks pretty and stuff, but like,
Don't break
yeah,
it. Just
yeah,
don't break
no.
it.
All right, next quote. Sitting and breaking down film, watching it over and over. We're giving up too many runs to the other team, and we're not getting on any runs. We have no rhythm right now. And again, rhythm. I you don't Pete, I'll let you talk. I almost broke my own rule.
It was the same thing as before. It's the same thing I said about defensive rhythm. Offensive rhythm is the same thing. The more guys practice together, play together, and get comfortable with each other, the more you are going to find them going on
Yeah.
runs. And this team, every game looks like their first game. They're just not, they don't not play well together. And we don't have guys who are really like playmakers, right? Like who really are good about making things happen for each other. Um, you just don't see that at all. You watch Jimerson frustrated as he runs around trying to get open while the other team's tugging on his jersey. It's been that way for 5 seasons. And nothing has changed there. Nothing's opened up for him. It's gotten worse, if anything. So
I
yeah, that I mean that's it.
I think it's getting into a rhythm. Like you're not getting on any runs. It's hard to get on runs when you don't get out in transition, and it's especially hard to go on runs when you don't turn the ball over, leading to transition. And I think uh, uh, I just don't. I don't know what he's getting at. I mean, they give up too many runs because they don't know how to play defense. They don't there's no communication on defense. There's
Hmm.
so many breakdowns. There's that over helping, over rotating. There's over aggressiveness. Like, yeah, good tough aggressive. I tough aggressive defense. I'll give him that. Good. And again, I only got part of the Mason game, but like I'm sure there was at least one part where we were extremely over aggressive and
Right.
caused open basket for or gave George Mason an open look. Um, I just don't know. Travis Ford on Slew's struggles. I think a lot is due to injuries. He didn't call out Mike Meadows, but he calls out Mike Meadows, who came back from injury and then was hurt again, not traveling to Mason due to concussion. Uh, Pete, I'll let you again go ahead, and then I've actually got a point on this that I think I texted you earlier to save as a note. So I'll let you go ahead.
Injuries happen. I understand that they're unfortunate, but like it's always something with this team, right? Like it's a new player, it's a new injury every day. I really am curious, like what's going on here, you know? Like why is this snowballing so much? But also like people aren't blowing out their knees or anything like that. Like these, it's just like little stuff kind of adding up, and it's bothering me because um
You know who
I
just got out of prison, right? Gypsy Rose Blanchard. The queen of little things, little injuries.
I do not.
Munchausen by proxy.
I got to admit I don't really know anything about
Oh
that
my
story.
God,
I don't
dude.
really know that
That
story.
story is nuts. Anyway, that's not part of it.
I've seen a headline, but whatever.
All I'm
I don't
saying
know
is
enough
that
about it.
there is a fringe psychological condition called Munchausen by proxy, in which you cause injury to someone you love for attention. I'm not saying
I don't. I mean, look, I guess I just really want to know why they're so injured and why they look like they're sucking wind at the end of a game.
why are they
I
injured
just
at
think,
practice? Like again, Dogger was injured. Why? Why was he injured?
yeah.
Did he stub his toe?
Well,
Like,
I don't have a whole lot to say on this point, Zach. So I want you to get to what you were going to say
yeah.
because I think it's probably more interesting.
So I think I had this kind of thought, and I understand that Mike Meadows had a concussion, and that I get that is legit. But I feel like we've become so conscious of injuries, like concussions and prehabbing, rehabbing, and injuries. Kind of we talk about them so carefully and we're so very pearl clutching when someone tears an ACL, this and that. But we forget that injuries are a part of the test of playing a competitive sport over a season and
Hmm.
over a playoffs. It's why the NHL is such a difficult trophy to win, or the Stanley Cup is such a difficult trophy to win in the NHL. It's why it's probably the most definitive championship in that you rarely see a team win it. And then the next season, like, oh, that's a fake championship. They got lucky. They, all this stuff. Nobody talks about that in the NHL because they understand that like durability and making it through 16 hockey games over a 2 month period, 3 month period is an endurance trial. This college basketball season and postseason are an endurance trial. It's part of the test. It's part of what the competition is. You set the rules, you prepare as well as you can, and whatever happens happens. Injury prevention is part of that task, and a part of that, like that's part of the game of it's like watching Formula One, right? You talk like I watched Formula One at first and didn't really understand it because like, oh, like they have cars and then there's just one driver, but like and he's but that's the whole team. Like there's so like you've got the basketball team is the driver, the coach is the car, or the team's the car, the coach is the driver, and then everyone around the head coach, including your medical staff, your training staff, your strength and conditioning, your assistant coach, that's all the pit crew. That's all the people that make sure your team is staying healthy and making sure that the car can run, right? And it's up to the staff to make sure that they are preparing in a way that is safe. And I don't mean safe like, oh, you got to be safe, no injuries, you can't hurt anything. Like you've got to understand recovery time and stress on the players from up and down the court. How long are we practicing? Like are we doing drills that are super physical? I mean, like Travis Ford talks about how this team is not physical. This team's not tough. Is he trying to beat it into him? I don't know. I'm not saying he is, but it's like when you talk about your team not being tough and they're injured all the time, I start to wonder if like what does it is he causing? Is he trying to bring the toughness out of them through extra difficult practices? Is my point. Is that what's going on here? Is it not conditioning them in the preseason? Again, this is all part of the staff that's been assembled by Travis Ford. Like I said, you have to manage the workload of all the players between practices and games. The talk about seeing the team at full strength before judging it is is assuming that it's a certainty that we get healthy.
Right.
But that's part of the game. It's part of the game. People get injured. You have to adjust. And these guys are basketball players. They're not random dudes you picked off the street and taught them how to play basketball over the summer. Like these dudes have played basketball at every level at different positions. They've played street ball games up and down the roster. Every one of these guys has played at the playground at every position.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows how to play basketball on this team. You don't learn a new position. You adapt. And I just don't think that this team is it's the end of the season is part of the thing that the teams are evaluated on. Obviously, winning is one, but like injury prevention is part of that evaluation of winning. Injury prevention and injury adaptation. And I just don't think I don't think you can I think you can look past the injuries, is what I'm saying. I think injuries don't matter. Well, they do matter, but like the injuries are an indictment on the coaching staff and the support staff. I think, but you go ahead if you got anything
No,
to say.
I don't have much to add to that. I think that's an interesting overall commentary. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't have
Yeah,
an answer here. Like I've never I've been around teams that have had injuries like this. My senior year was one, but it wasn't just like constantly rolled out as like, oh, today he's got that, today he's got this, today, and like, look, we've got injuries. Like every team has some degree of injuries, right? And we already talked about how Dayton lost their starting point guard and is outperforming expectations. When you're looking at the injuries at any given time, it's like you can't tell me that one guy or those two guys are the difference between us getting our butts kicked and winning a game. Like the defense is still bad regardless of who's sitting out that day. The offense is still lost regardless of
Javante's
who's
not an
sitting out that day.
all-world defender.
Not
No,
Javante,
no,
Sincere.
sorry, sincere.
Yeah,
Sincere is not an
the
all-world
defense
defender.
doesn't get better when he's back. The offense does, but not the defense. And so it's just like I just want them to be at full strength for a sustained period of time, just so I could kind of confirm my suspicions that I don't think things are going to change.
I agree. Um, Talking about defensive struggles. This is an interesting one. SLU has been fortunate to have good defenders that led defense and set tone. We don't necessarily have that right now. It's not necessarily a knock on anyone. It's just not their identity as a player.
No leadership.
Okay. Okay. Team Blue. Are
Yeah,
you recruiting to the identity? Or are you grabbing the players that'll like
yeah.
I think it's
But
more of just Travis Ford. Just I think it's player evaluation. Are the if these guys aren't like down and dirty defenders. Why are you bringing them in? I
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
care if I don't care if a guy could suck on offense. Now, don't give me five players that suck on offense but are amazing on defense. Don't give me five of them, but give me one guy who's one or two guys that are ready to you know knock down, drag out defensive game.
right. Yeah, Soderbergh used to say I recruit guys who can score and teach them how to defend
Yeah,
in his system. And that was partially true and it was partially successful. But like his point was you want guys who are like athletes and guys who know how to score and play often because like a lot of them just aren't getting the defensive coaching you would want them to have in high school and certainly not in AAU.
yeah,
It's gotten better over the years, but like there's still a lot to learn, especially in terms of team defense. And there's always more skill work to be done. But to look so completely lost, it's more than just a lack of leadership. But at the same time, you start two guys who have been on your squad for 5 years. Like how is vocal leadership not coming out of 40% of your starting roster? You have other guys in your rotation who are fourth and fifth year players. Like, I just I don't know why either you haven't identified someone or no one's raising their hand. Like that to me is a much bigger program issue.
yeah. I think Travis tries to run that Soderbergh recruiting strategy, and I just don't think he has. But I don't. I think he's bringing guys that just don't have the want to. Like, there's a guy who doesn't know how to play defense because he hasn't been taught, and a guy who doesn't really want to learn.
Sure. Or just
And,
doing the bare minimum. But
yeah,
like part of it, Zach, is like just watching them play defense. They do everything right. They I have a hard time thinking it's like, oh, that guy right there, he's just not committed to learning this defense.
yeah,
Right. It's like, well, what is he supposed to learn? What is the defense? What is he being taught? What is he not getting?
yeah. Travis Ford on defense due to lack of. I'm not. I mean, I'm not gonna read that one. That's fine. Um, you know, we spent 3 months pressing for 2 hours of practice. We were 4-0 and we pressed for 40 minutes every game. Hopefully, we can start getting guys healthy and pressing again and mixing in our more zone and defending as a team. I mean, the only reason he can say getting guys healthy again, guys plural, is because Meadows has a conky.
Right. But also you were 4-0 because you were playing Southern Indiana,
Yeah, hold on.
Lincoln,
Let me pull those up. Let me pull the
Illinois
scores up.
State. I guess Wyoming would be the best, but
Yeah, I mean, and it was what? I mean, okay, so you had a 12-point win versus Southern Indiana. I'm not even going to talk about the Lincoln game. Illinois State was 8 points at home. 10-point win on neutral floor. I mean, when did we're not. You were 3-0, Travis. Stop it.
yeah, well, right. It's
Or
just like
two, yeah,
the level of competition has something to do with that. Because
yeah,
like the next game, we actually play a good team. We lose by double digits. The next game after that, we get blown out. Game after that, we have a terrible Dartmouth team that we barely beat at home.
yeah,
And then we go on to lose three more after that. It's just like I understand that Parker was not there after the Wyoming game, but like you can't tell me he's the difference between these a lot of bad losses or blowout losses and just being, undefeated or whatever.
yeah.
It's just yeah, it's way more than that.
We have won, let's see, one game. So the least we've lost by is five. And we've barely the games we've won, we've really barely won. Other than Illinois State and Southern Indiana. I'm
Right.
gonna say we barely won it or with Wyoming, I don't know, dude. I just don't see any results here that give me like none of those like even at the beginning of the season, you can tell me that we went 4-0, but none of those did any of those games do anything for you besides like relief that we
Yeah, I
won.
mean, we should have won those by more. Like Southern Indiana is not good this year.
It's
You
never
know,
been good.
it's hard to with the lower division team. It's just hard to say. Illinois State is not supposed to be very good. Um, but that one in the Wyoming game, I'm like, we win by 9, we win by 10, fine, whatever. I'm not like thrilled with them. I'm not like super alarmed by them at that point, but like those were games where I'm just like, we could have played better. We could have played better, right? And then then the wheels start coming off after that. And you're right. When we do win, it's by 3, it's by 1, and in games that you should win by more, especially that Dartmouth one. So I don't know. We could break all that down, but I think the point stands that like we're not one player away from this looking completely different. It's a systemic problem.
Yeah, it really is. Um,
Oh,
I,
and I guess the other point I'll make is like, what's he saying there? Hopefully we could start pressing again, mixing in more zone, defending as a team. It's like playing faster, like all the things you always say you're gonna do and have never done. Even when like we were fully healthy last year and we played slow and we didn't press and we didn't, make. I don't know. I mean, it's just like a tiger doesn't change its stripes.
this is what I'm saying. Like it's the same stuff over and over, and it's incredibly unlikable, and just it's becoming whiny. Like people got on the people that were on message board and on Twitter about being negative, but like or constantly negative, saying the same thing over and over again. But like this is the same kind of deal, and this guy's getting paid 2.5 million to do it.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know, dude. We've been so short of bodies. We had to get back from that. It's talking about press. Like you were short for like 2 games, man. I don't know. The last one's a doozy, Pete. The end of the interview is a doozy. Interview ends with a question on salvaging the season. Is there time? Travis paused for a long time before answering. Yeah, we're not even halfway through the season. I know what it takes to win, and I know what it looks like. I'm sure that's exactly how he said it. Uh,
Um, I
I don't know if you know what it takes to look like. Or I know that you know what it looks like to win because you've done it as a player. Um, but I don't know if you know what it takes to win at what uh, we are expecting here at St. Louis University,
to this I'll say
or what
like
we expected, or what he's promised.
we are now how many games into this season? We are um 7-8. So we're 15 games into the season plus 2 exhibitions. And like I know what I've watched. I know what I've seen. And I've been a sports fan for a long time and I've watched enough teams to know when they're unlucky, when things haven't clicked into place yet. But when I've seen like promise, I've seen elements of the way the team plays, or I've seen certain players coming into their own, signs that things might be turning and for the better, and the season can get back on track, and there's something that can be salvaged. I have not seen anything this season that gives me hope that this team can be really competitive, even in an A10 that's not particularly strong. That looks pretty chaotic right now out of that top spot where Dayton sits. There are some teams that are outperforming expectations. We just ran into one with George Mason. There are some teams underperforming, like a Duquesne or maybe a Bonaventure or
VCU.
VCU. Thank you. So it's once again a winnable league, and we look like, if not the worst team, one of the few worst teams in the league. And there's nothing that makes me think we won't be one of those pillow fight teams, meaning one of the bottom four teams that has to play in essentially a play-in game in the conference tournament, giving us one more round that we have to make it through to win the conference tournament. I am just, I don't have anything that I can point to say, there's where it's happening. They look absolutely lost at both ends every game. They're being outplayed, out hustled, out coached every game, win or lose. Like they beat Dartmouth, a bad Dartmouth team by one. There are so many results that I look at. Louisiana Tech, you needed Hargrove to completely take over and do something really, really unlikely to win that game at the end. Bailed out, right? Like there are just so many results here. Even the positive ones are feel negative. So I just don't buy it. I don't, but like Sincere Parker is not Superman. We've seen him play enough to know what he does well and what his limitations are. And it's not the thing that is going to make this team. And it's no disrespect to him. It's a whole team problem. It's not going to turn a corner once we get one or two more guys healthy. It's just not. I'll happily be wrong, but man, I'm looking at this upcoming stretch of games, and it doesn't get easier.
They'll go on a run.
Show me. Point to in the
Yes.
schedule where that'll happen.
No, I agree.
I'm
I
from the
don't.
show me state. Show me.
I just cannot. I'm done listening to like. Tell us why. Tell us how.
Yeah,
Give us give
exactly.
us your coaching opinion. Like we know you've diagnosed the problem. Imagine Travis Ford as a doctor. Well, you've got lupus. Don't know what we can do for you. Oh, next visit. Hey, did you know you have lupus?
It would be great though. He's like, wow, you've got these injuries. Once you're not injured anymore, things will get better. Yeah, your heart really can't find its rhythm. I don't know what to do, but it's really out of rhythm.
Once it gets back in rhythm, though,
Yeah,
oh man, you'll be
then it'll
back
be
in the
pumping.
gym in no time, baby. Oh God. Oh my God. He's so like it's the defiant. I know better, but I'm not. I know what the problem is. I know how to fix it, but I'm not telling you, and we haven't fixed it yet.
Right.
Should we kick it around the A10 where things,
Yeah, we got to get out of these games. We'll
dude, yeah,
stop
oh my
wallowing in our
God.
misery.
We've been wallowing for an hour and 12 minutes now, potentially.
or
Um,
more, I think.
yeah, I was being generous. Around the A10, Pete, Wednesday, the 3rd, George Mason beats LaSalle 77-62. Dayton beats Davidson 72-59. UMass 80, Duquesne 61. Rhode
Wow.
Island 78. St. Joe's 74. Also, wow.
Yeah.
Fordham won in a bonkers game.
Yes.
Fordham beats George Washington 119 to 113 in triple overtime. Wow.
Hmm.
St. Bonaventure 89, VCU 78. Run us down the 6th.
Yeah. Saturday the 6th, LaSalle beats Fordham 81-76. In what could be two more pillow fighters with us. Loyola beats Duquesne 72-67. Richmond pulls out an impressive win over Bonaventure 65-54. And then George Washington goes into VCU and upsets them 84-82 after losing to Fordham in triple overtime a few days earlier.
This conference just loves to
It
cannibalize
is
itself.
just nuts.
Final game on the schedule was Sunday the 7th, Dayton 64, UMass 60, in which Kobe Elvis went down with an injury. Unsure what that was,
Yep.
but I'm sure Anthony Grant won't be making excuses. Um, Next up, Wednesday, January 10th versus St. Joseph's.
Yes, Billy Lang and St. Joe's. They're 10-4 overall. Pretty good start. But they're 0-1 in conference after that Rhode Island loss that I think kind of surprised them, even though it was on the road. Their wins are over Lafayette, Penn, Stonehill, Sacred Heart, Villanova, Temple, American, Princeton, a very good Princeton team, Iona, and Loyola, Maryland. Maryland. Excuse me. Losses, they've got one at Charleston. They lost in overtime at Kentucky. They lost somehow at home against Texas A&M Commerce. I don't understand that one at all. Billy Lang is in his fifth year. He's got an overall record of 140 and 196. His winning percentage has gotten better each season, but he's looking for his first winning record, and this could be it. They've got five double-digit scores. 6'2" junior guard Eric Reynolds is at 16.9 points a game. 6'2" junior guard Lynn Greer is at 12.3 points a game with 4.7 rebounds and 4.4 assists. They've got a 6'9" sophomore forward, Rasheer Fleming, who averages just under 12 points a game, 7.5 rebounds. Senior guard Cameron Brown is 6'5", 11.4 points a game, and 5 rebounds. And then 6'2" freshman guard Xavier is spelled the most obnoxious way I've ever seen. Also Brown, no relation to Cameron Brown, 11.1 points a game. He's a pretty impressive freshman, actually. They do have some size on the bench, but they're mostly role players. We're pretty familiar with this version of St. Joe's style by now, but this season more than ever, they shoot a ton of three-pointers. They average 30.6 attempts per game, and they're sixth in the nation in both attempts and makes, which also means they're one of the bottom teams in the nation in attempts inside the perimeter, and they just don't get to the free throw line much for that reason. But oddly enough, they're a pretty good defensive team inside the arc. They really limit attempts inside. They force teams to shoot from outside, and they defend both areas pretty well. They hold teams to under 66 points a game. They're a pretty solid rebounding team, particularly on the defensive end. And circling back to the shooting, everyone is really a threat to shoot a three at any time. Everyone who gets minutes on this team averages one or more a game in terms of attempts. Reynolds and Cam Brown are the top two threats. I think they shoot like 8.5 and 7 per game. It's crazy. Look, the Rhode Island loss was a surprise to me, but I'll acknowledge that road games are tough, even when there are two teams that are not good. I will say a team that lives and die by the three, it's going to have some unexpected nights like that one, or like the Texas A&M Commerce loss at home, or taking Kentucky to overtime on the road 3 days later. St. Joe's is going to have a full week off by the time they play at SLU. So Zach, all I can say is this game's going to be a weird one. I call it a sicko special. I mean, it's this is going to be. I don't know what to make of it. I mean, like it's like the way that they just chuck SLU could lose by 30, or this could be a really close, hard fought game. I don't know what to say here, other than I'm very, very curious to see how this one plays out.
The Hawks are gonna drain like 53s on us and 150 points. It's gonna be wonderful to
They're
watch.
going to bring that mascot too.
Yeah, well, again, this is another 6 p.m. start.
Ugh, I hate it.
I why? I mean, okay, do the Blues play on Wednesday? I don't know.
I think it's
It's
because it's on CBS Sports and they probably have
oh,
like a
okay.
like a double header kind of
Well,
thing.
at least I'll give them this one that it was a national broadcast. I'll give them that one. All right,
Right,
that's
because next time when they play at Dayton,
but
it's a later start.
and
It's
I
an
get
hour
and
later.
for this at least they won't start to like 6:15.
Right. Yeah, you're probably right.
Let's talk about the A10 survivor pool. Pete, give the listeners an update on where uh our entries stand.
Well, yeah, Zach, I like that you're calling me out, really making me present this one because this one I have to admit that I don't know what I'm doing here because I took George Washington to hold home court against Fordham, and we all know by now what happened in that game, and they lost in triple overtime. Luckily, though, we still have a chance. The podcast
Yep,
and you've got UMass versus LaSalle, which to me looks like an absolute lock at this point. And then the podcast took Davidson at home over Rhode Island, which I still feel pretty good about
yep.
um, overall as well. So that's where we stand as of this week. One game down, two to be played, and we're 0-1.
So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna tier because we don't have any picks to make this week, because we got another um couple days. We're gonna try something new. We're gonna tier six of these matchups. We're gonna pick three that are MB 5-star locks, three that are risky, and three to pick only if you're desperate. And I'm assuming we're gonna roll, we're gonna explain it. Like, I don't have the picks inside the snips of these matchups because that would be a lot of work. Um, Pete, what here, first of all, what's sticking out to you this week here?
Well, it's hard not to look at Dayton Slew, Zach, and think that Slew's not going to get buried in that one. Um,
I
I,
think I
I
agree. I think that is the easiest one, I think, unfortunately.
we don't have a status update for Kobe Elvis yet, but I don't think it makes a difference. I think Deron Holmes is going to eat our lunch, and the rest of their team is going to also have their way with us. So that one to me, it sounds like we're in consensus there.
Yes. Let's go. Let me see what else is out here. I think I like, man, 5-star lock. I shit.
St.
Um,
Joe's at home against LaSalle is tempting, and Bonaventure at home against Rhode Island is also
I
tempting.
yes, you read my mind. I think we're gonna throw LaSalle at St. Joe. So St. Joe's at home
Mhm.
versus LaSalle. Um,
And then Bonaventure plays both Fordham and
yeah.
Rhode Island at home. And I like both of those, even if
I think
Bonaventure did look terrible in the first half against Richmond.
yeah, I think we go with Fordham just because Rhode Island's coming off that win.
Fordham at GW triple overtime. But yeah, no, they just lost to LaSalle. I at
Yeah,
was that at home too? I
yeah.
think Fordham's probably more of a sure thing.
Okay. Um, let's talk some risky business, some Tom Cruise. Not to be confused with Jim Cruise, his cousin. Um,
So I guess St. Bonaventure over Rhode Island would go in
yeah,
this
I
one.
think we could put that in there safely.
Yeah,
Um,
I think maybe UMass on the road at Rhode Island as well.
ooh, yeah.
Um,
How about Dayton over? No, I think VC. No, they're not. I know. I just
it's a
uh,
lot of the teams I like are road teams this week.
yeah,
But I think UMass looks the strongest at this point of the
yeah.
road teams. They
I
play
like
both
that.
at Loyola and at Rhode Island. I think.
Okay, I think we'd take Rhode Island.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think you put that there.
So that's UMass over Rhode Island, and
Hmm.
then one more in the risky. I don't. I kind of want to go with somebody else. I mean, Mason at Washington, or we could just
Tempting.
stick with Massachusetts at Loyola.
I mean, the thing is, like, so many of these teams are 1-1 at this point that
Yeah.
it's really it's and an unexpected 1-1 too, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, St. Joe's at home against Loyola doesn't sound terrible, but I still don't know what St. Joe's is all about.
I want to see St. Joe's play at SLU first.
Hmm. Let's go UMass at Loyola.
All right. Yeah, UMass is strong.
Uh,
Can they win two road games in a week?
we're gonna find out. Only if desperate, I think Davidson at Fordham has to go there.
Yeah.
Um, I would say I feel like Davidson is the ripcord in case of emergency team because
Are they oh they're 0-1 in the league. They've only played one league game so far, like Richmond, right?
yeah,
Is that true?
I don't know.
Yeah, I knew Richmond only played one, but yeah, they're kind
VCU
of
at
that team.
LaSalle.
VCU at LaSalle's another one. Like that
Yeah,
should be VCU's game, but I don't know if I want to touch Dayton on the road at Duquesne until I know the health status of Elvis. But
yeah,
that it does feel winnable. I know that's a sold out gym too, and it's going to be a lot of Dayton fans. Like they sold that game out. But yeah, that's a good one right there. St. Joe's
at home against
at home against
Loyola.
Loyola.
Yeah, I agree. All right, I think we got our tiers, and then these on the bottom is just leave them alone. They're a
Yeah.
little too close. Pete, why don't you recap? Can you see those enough to recap them?
Yeah, I can. So in our MB 5-star lock category,
It's a
we've got
great.
da
By the way, that's a real ones know.
Yeah, real ones know. Dayton at home over SLU. And we've got St. Joe's at home over LaSalle and Bonaventure at home over Fordham. I like all three of those. Risky. We've got Bonaventure at home over Rhode Island, UMass on the road over Rhode Island, and then UMass on the road again over Loyola. And if desperate, you've got Davidson sitting there at Fordham. You've got VCU at LaSalle, and you've got St. Joe's holding home court over Loyola.
I almost like these two to switch.
St. Joe's at home versus UMass on the yeah,
I
that's
I,
fun.
I mean home. I think we got to switch these actually.
And then you're not picking UMass to win twice on the road.
Right, because that's crazy.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So all right. So we did switch risky. We bumped St. Joe's at home versus Loyola to risky, and we dropped Massachusetts winning on the road at Loyola to only if desperate. I think on the road wins. I think that's kind of the theme, right?
sure.
You're only grabbing a road team if you have to. So, yeah, that is our tier list. This may come out as part of the podcast. It depends on how long the show ends up being, which could be 2 hours or more at this point. But yeah, if this doesn't end up as part of the podcast, thank you guys for watching, and we hope we're right. So I'll probably snip this and see if we were. So thanks. Oh, Pete. We got our pit. We tiered the matchups for the A10 Survivor pool. Um, man, it's I've worked up an appetite, and you know what I reach for a snack? 2 Men in a Garden.
Yeah, and you'll never be disappointed, Zach, when you reach for them for when you need a snack. Today is grocery shopping day in my house. I go every Sunday morning to the grocery store, and when you get low in the grocery department in your own house, you have to get creative. And one of the things I've noticed when you get to the bottom of a bag of tortilla chips, it's kind of worse than any other kind of chip, right? Because like you need the salsa with it, and there's not a whole lot to do. And members of my family have a habit of putting a chip bag back in the pantry, the cabinet, when all you've got left is some crumbles and some dust. But me being me, and not letting a food go to waste necessarily. I don't know if I'm like letting you in on like a an embarrassing fat guy thing here, but like a couple spoons of 2 Men in a garden on top of the end of the chips, the crumbles, the ones you can't dip anymore, and just eat it with a spoon, man. You still get the chip, you still get the salsa. So good every time, man. When it's 2 Men in a garden salsa. That's a pro tip. That's a pro tip right there. And one to take home. 2meninagarden.com is where you can find all their salsas. You won't be disappointed no matter how you eat them, I promise.
Also, a little pro tip: you can make a little taco pizza, maybe a little pita, taco pizza, with the 2 Men in a Garden salsa base.
So many ways to make it work.
Uh, New men's basketball offer, and it's weird, right, to get this because it kind of felt like this like coaching staff was packing it in, like they weren't offering anybody.
It did. It did. We haven't seen an offer in literally months, and we have a new one as of today. Mustafa El, man, I don't want to say your last name at all, but I'm gonna guess Mutuwaki. Or no, that's an L at the end,
Kill,
not a
yeah,
double I. Motuako.
Mutuako,
Mutuako.
Mutawako.
Moutaoukakil. That's four vowels in a row in the middle of his name, and it really makes it tricky.
You know
But
who's waking up in the middle of the night tonight in cold sweats?
Guy Phillips really hopes we don't land this guy.
Yeah,
Um, he's our new offer. He's a 6'6", 195-pound sophomore guard from Indian River State College. So he would be a junior with 2 years of eligibility in D1. He's one of the top scorers in JUCO D1 right now. He's averaging 27.7 points a game, 6.3 rebounds, 3.3 assists. He's shooting over 59% from the field. He shoots about 36% from three. He's originally from Morocco, which explains the really long name that we butchered, I'm sure. But he went to Eagle Crest High School in Denver. I'm not sure when he emigrated to the US. That I haven't found yet. I haven't had a whole lot of time, given that it just happened today that we found out about it. He's obviously a pretty good scorer. Looks like he does it on all three levels. He's a pretty smooth, crafty player. He has kind of a lean frame. He doesn't look like he's 6'6" to me either, but maybe that's just based on limited video with less than ideal angles. The only other offers he's got right now are southeastern Louisiana and southern Indiana. Sorry, southeastern Louisiana and southern Indiana. Kind of hard to say back to back there. So we look like only his third offer. And I'm going to do a little more homework in terms of who else might be recruiting him, what else we need to know about him. But that's what I've got so far. Intriguing offer, Zach. He's not a guy who immediately jumps out to me as a huge difference maker, but I think, we're going to be looking to replace some scoring certainly next season. And it's just really interesting timing to see an offer amidst everything else that's going on. And after maybe the longest period we've ever had between offers. So don't know what to make of it quite yet.
What I make of it is I don't care what his offensive numbers are. Like
Mm,
I don't care that we have to replace scoring. All these dudes have played basketball. Like I just want to see a guy with a defensive pedigree one
right.
time. Like what I also am a little bit skeptical on this one. I mean, he's got one of those JUCO coaches tweeting like, "Hey, D1 coaches, so and so is doing
Right.
this." This
Yeah. Yeah. JUCO recruiting is like that.
it's a little, I don't know. It feels, yeah. I'm not gonna judge the kid, but like I don't know. Those seem weird when those kind of tweets come out. Pete, we got some good news though. On the women's basketball side.
We did, but we didn't get it immediately, Zach.
No.
They took a 74-72 loss at Loyola on Wednesday the 3rd. And the tricky thing about this game happened at the exact same time it's a men's game,
Yeah.
right? So they are at Loyola.
Tricked me on
So
the ESPN app.
it really did.
At
The
the
same
the
time
final
Loyola's at
score.
Slow.
The final
Yes.
score, I saw it and I turned around because I was just walking to my car and I turned around to some random people. Did we lose that game by two?
Yeah.
Because I left like about a minute left. By the way, that game took forever. The men's game took
The
forever to
end,
end.
right?
Yeah.
It did. Well, and in this one too, it took a while at the end. It was weird. I think both games were like tied at 55 at the same time. So like the women and men were
Illuminati confirmed.
both tied at the same time against the same team. It I may be off by 1 point. Maybe one of
We're
them
living
was
in a
56.
simulation, Peter.
If we are, what a lame thing to do. If
Well,
if you could
hold on.
control
Hold on.
if you could
To be
control
fair,
everything, why would you do that?
to be fair, have you ever seen the way some people play like The Sims?
I guess that's
So,
true.
so I have to imagine that of the millions of humans and all the stupid shit we do, there
Mhm.
has to be some really lame ass alien that is running a simulation that happens to be our world. Like there has to be.
Yeah,
Like people do the Second Life. Like people do the most insane things.
it's true. It's true. You're like
So
really
it would
like
stand to reason that another intelligent life form would also have just really boring ass lame people.
like this is the trivial thing that I'm going to do to amuse myself at this
Yeah,
moment. But
yeah.
hey, whatever works for whoever is running the simulation.
Please,
Zach,
can you please make the Billikens good again, Mister Keeper
yes,
of the Sim?
we'll do anything.
Yes.
So the issue with the start of this game, Zach, is they got in a big hole early, just like the men did. There was one spot where I think I realized if you combined the score of the two games, it would be 25-4 that Loyola was beating SLU at that time. I think it was 15-2 and 11-2. No, it was 13-2 and 11-2, something like that. 14 and 11. And so, yeah, 25-4 was the combined score. But the difference in this one is the women came back and made it a 1 point game at the end of the first quarter. They just had a kind of a brief rocky start. Um, SLU then took a 7 point lead into halftime. I think it was 30. I don't remember what it was. It was a 7 point lead, only to go -8 in the third quarter and then be down by one. And then it was pretty tight from there on out. Really, this was kind of a back and forth game. Um, SLU got a few really tough whistles down the stretch. I thought there was one with a couple minutes left that felt pretty crucial. And then Alyssa Fisher from Loyola hit a three with 1:21 to play to tie it. 48 seconds left. Brooklyn Gray made a nice move. She put SLU up two. 12 seconds later, Fisher again made a perfect shot fake, dribbled to her right, gave herself a wide open three and hit it. I saw it coming from a mile away. As soon as she got the ball, everything she did was in perfect motion. She's a nice player and had 28 points in this game. And then at the other end, um, Gray missed, and the rebound really looked like it went off a Loyola player's fingers. And it was one of those where the refs were at the monitor forever, right? So both of these games, like you said, took forever to end. They initially called it off SLU, and I guess they didn't see enough to overturn it. But man, on the replay, it looked like it was off the Loyola player's fingertips.
Was it one of
Um,
those that like where it hits the hand and they can either call the foul or call the ball going?
No, it was going to be
Okay.
an out of bounds call. There was no foul.
But
It
you know
was
what I'm
literally,
talking about
yeah,
though,
I
where
do.
they
Yeah,
yeah.
right. No, this was a ball. Though it was going, toward the baseline. They're reaching. Everyone's trying to get it, and
Hmm.
two people, Brooklyn Gray, and I'm
Gotcha.
forgetting the Loyola player, but I thought it was off Loyola's fingertips. They didn't overturn it, but whatever. SLU then Loyola inbounds it. SLU forces a turnover in the backcourt. Like they do a full court press. Julia Martinez, Kennedy Calhoun, they're all up in their business. Force the turnover, and they wind up with an inbounds play from half court with 15 seconds left, down one. It ends up resulting in a not great shot attempt from Kyla McMakin. She was pretty close, but she was fading to her right. She was kind of heavily guarded. And then Tierra Simon missed the putback. SLU had to foul. Loyola made the second free throw. You thought, okay, it's over at this point, but Julia Martinez throws a perfect, playing quarterback from the baseline, perfect long ball pass to Kennedy Calhoun, deep wide receiver running a post route. And she was in a perfect spot, but just at the last second, she wasn't quite extended enough, and the ball hits her hands and bounces down to the floor before she can actually get a shot off. Had she been able to catch that, she had a wide open layup. So it was kind of unfortunate. It was a tough play, but they actually gave themselves a pretty impressive chance to win this in the last minute. Um, and unfortunately, they just couldn't pull it off. Gray did end up with 19 points on 9 of 11 shooting. And then in front of her friends and family, who I think treated the team to dinner at uh, at one of the Chicago deep dish
I
places the
believe it
night
was Lou
before.
Malnati's or
Lou
whatever.
Malnati's, I think it was. Yeah, Martinez had 12 points, 7 rebounds, and 13 assists. So one of her typical stat sheet stuffer kind of nights. Um,
That's a
Tierra
fat
Simon,
bill, by the way.
I bet it was. I bet it was very generous of them.
Oh,
Though the good thing about taking out a college, athletics team or whatever is nobody's ordering alcohol. So like you don't run up a big bar tab, right?
that's true.
It's just the food. One thing I noticed from eating a lot of team meals out back in the day. But Tierra Simon had 5 points and 14 rebounds. Big Macon ended up with 11, kind of a quiet night for her. Turnovers killed SLU in this game, 23 total. Martinez, McMakin, and Calhoun combined for 17 of those. I think they had 6, 6, and 5. Really could have made the difference in this game. SLU was plus 11 on the glass, right? So they only had three more offensive rebounds than Loyola. So the turnovers were just brutal here. And they went 4 of 11 from three. Yet another game where they're just not getting enough looks from outside. Um, it was one of those games that they really needed and lost. It was heartbreaking. Um, Wanted that first conference win, and it was a very winnable game. But road games are tough, and when you turn it over that much, it's just goes that way.
Yeah, I think you yeah, I don't like that they lost this game and I don't like they went 0-2. However, Um, Against a historically good A10 women's basketball program. They get a 79-75 bounce back win on Saturday the 6th. This was I liked what I saw from the Billikens. I think again, this team feels like it always has enough fight to get back in the game.
Yes. Yeah, we've said that before. Like they never really feel like they're out of it.
And I think that has was never more apparent than in this game because UMass shot the lights out early.
Mhm. Yeah, they did, and I didn't see a whole lot of the early part of this one. You know, I don't think my wife realized that there was a women's game going on too before the men,
Nor would
and
she have cared, I'm sure.
she would not have cared. No, but so she was out, and I had the kids to myself, and just was not able to catch a whole lot of it before the men's game, where I finally did have a couple hours to myself. Um, but yeah, look, I mean, when they go at the same time, I kind of hate that. This one, like the previous one, it also came down to the wire. UMass had a chance to tie it with a layup at the end, but they missed. And Tierra Simon hit two free throws to seal the win with 1.5 seconds left. So another game that was tight, came down to the wire. But yeah, I mean, it's a road game, right? And they're a home team. They're shooting well early on, and you got to scratch and claw your way back into it. And that's what they did.
It's easy to fold.
It is. It's easy to fold. It's easy to make the kind of mistakes that snowball on you a little bit, and they didn't let that happen. There's always a lot of fight in this team.
Yeah. McMakin scored 27, 7 of 16, 3 of 6, 10 and 15. UMass announcers were really complimentary of McMakin, calling her automatic. She reached 2,500 points for her career, which is just preposterous.
Yeah.
Peyton Kennedy had 18 and 9. When she goes off, she really goes off. Peyton Kennedy is very, very fun to
And
watch.
it's been a while too. Like she seems to have had a little bit of a midseason slump here,
Yep.
and hopefully this is a signal that she's coming out of it.
Martinez had 6, 6, and 6.
She did. I put a little devil emoji next to that in our tweet of the game, because I'm sure that's what other teams look at Julia
Yes.
Martinez like. She's
The
not fun to play
devil.
against.
Everything is the devil with you, mama. Jesus. Sorry, I can't help it. It's just it comes out.
We're
Um,
slap happy at this point.
yeah, Slew was 10 and 19 from three. Maybe like the men, they should probably shoot it more.
10 of
Uh,
19 is a sign that you need to shoot it more from outside.
yes,
Yes.
yes. Good thing they were hitting because only 10 points in the paint, and with the way UMass was shooting, Slew needed to keep pace. Turnovers were not so good, 19 for Slew. I'd go as far as say that's a problem.
Hmm.
Slew out rebounded UMass by 10, but only wound up with 10 second chance points on 12 offensive rebounds. Pete, I noticed early in this one that UMass really hounded the glass early. Really.
They did. Yeah, yeah. You sent me that note like almost immediately. I was like, "Oh yeah, this game started."
I was
And
like,
so,
I was like, oh no, if UMass is playing with this kind of energy and this kind
yeah,
of effort and they're making threes, it could be a long day in Amherst.
that's right. If the tone early on had carried on throughout this game, it would have been ugly. But yeah, luckily Slew turned that around big time, to out rebound them by 10. I would not have expected that,
Not
based on
based
how it
on the,
started.
yeah, not at all. They had 10 fewer field goal attempts than UMass. UMass got 53 points out of the top three, but not much from the rest of their lineup. Two of those top three had foul trouble, ending up with four each, and UMass had six more fouls than Sioux in the game. I hope the UMass coach complained about it in their post game show.
I was wondering that as well. The men's game was going on at the time, so I didn't pop in and listen to any of that. But you hate to go +6 at home on that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not great.
UMass is bad on the season, just 3 wins. First year coach, but again, historically good.
Yeah,
And a new coach, and we've seen it time and time again now where teams don't build; they find a way to get portal to compete immediately. The
right.
Billikens needed this one though; they couldn't afford to lose it. for sure. Um, which yeah, they needed a
Yeah,
road win.
it's really like, at first I'm like, this was kind of a must win. And I'm like, well, I guess it's not really a must win, but like they really can't lose it, right? Like that's more the way that I frame this one. To win on the road, they needed to break that losing streak, right? They needed to
Yeah.
get to 500 in conference, which they can do with home games coming up soon. They just needed to right the ship. And now with two straight home games, hopefully that's what they're gonna do. It's it's been a tougher season than I think we've expected, but they've got a chance to turn it around for sure.
Two straight home games. That's hopefully what they're going to do. They've got St. Joe's, who has not typically been very good, and Dayton, who I don't know what the hell. I think I said it last episode. I have
Yeah,
no idea what's going on at Dayton.
no, they're
Um,
not good.
let's should we check out the standings real quick or get the hell out? I think we get the hell out of here. But I do want to see what Dayton is up to. They are 1-3 in conference.
Okay,
So
so they played one more conference game than SLU.
and they are 7-8 overall. So a little bit better than St. Louis, but again, they don't have the goodwill of going to the Dayton women are kind of like SLU men right now.
Hmm.
Like, except they have a new coach, right? But Tillett has that juice from last year. If this is the same thing we're seeing in year two from Tillett, then we have a problem. Dayton in the second year, same thing.
Right.
I think they have a problem.
Yeah, and they've typically been the best or one of the best couple teams in this league. So
They
that's
certainly get funded well.
right, right.
Well, that's gonna do it for us. A long, long episode. Hope you stuck with us. Uh, thank you for sticking with us. Don't forget to hit the YouTube comment section and sound off on the Billikens. Pete, got wanna you know wish them a happy new year.
Yeah, happy New Year to everybody. Hope you had a good one and yeah, like, subscribe, comment, all the things. Keep the faith, hang in there, keep listening, keep the conversation going. I feel like we have to get through this period of SLU men's basketball as a collective, right? And not just quit on the thing altogether.
Again, no matter how big of a dumpster fire the season is, or the program, or the department is, go Bills.
Go Bills.